is Sadia.
I'm Ahndraea
Ahndraea Allen.
Rachel.
Please.
I'm Tracy.
The life advice I would give my younger self is
Don't try to please everyone, and it's okay to say no if you don't like it.
Just because we live in such a fast-paced environment and world nowadays, it's difficult to kind of appreciate every single step.
What's meant to happen will happen, so you should just go with it a little bit more.
The people that inspire me the most are my parents.
I think the easy answer to that is my mother and my mom, just because she's such a strong boss woman.
All the mothers inspire me.
Mostly due to their support, their strength, and their resilience.
I think the thing that makes me feel most empowered is being able to speak up. And what that means to me is saying what's on your mind.
I think when I have rested well currently, if I have a good night's sleep, I spend time with my daughter, I feel I can do anything.
I think remembering the power that we hold is really what unleashes that empowerment that we bring to ourselves. So definitely that's when I feel most empowered, when I remember, like, I got it.
Hello, beautiful ladies.
Hello.
Hello, and welcome to everyone tuning in to our second Empower Her workshop in celebration of International Women's Day 2024 in collaboration with Adidas. How are you ladies feeling?
Good. Pumped up.
I'm feeling good.
We have a very exciting topic that we're going to discuss and talk all about this afternoon. So I hope you guys are ready. But for a quick introduction, this session will be tailored and focused on working abroad as an expat. And I think that literally applies to the three of us working in Dubai. So I will ask you a couple of questions. Would love to hear a bit of your personal, professional journey and some tips and tricks for our audience. Sounds good?
Awesome.
Amazing. Before we go into the questions, would love to hear a little bit about you so the audience gets to know you a bit better. So Tracy, let's hear a little bit about you, your personal and professional journey.
Hey everyone, I'm Tracy Nassif and I handle the digital marketing here at Namshi. So all of the paid ads, paid campaigns that you're seeing on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, that's what I do. I grew up in Thailand and then I moved to Lebanon and I'm now in Dubai for Namshi.
Oh my goodness, you've been to different places, haven't you, Tracy?
All over the world.
I'm sure you've got a lot of stories in your pocket.
Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you for joining us. Ahndraea, let's hear you.
Awesome. Thank you. So my name is Ahndraea and I am originally from the US, New Jersey. I've been in Dubai for 2 years, a little bit over 2 years. At Adidas, I'm the training specialist, senior training specialist for the UAE. So anything training, I'm the go-to person. And that's a little bit about me.
You've got all this knowledge in your head about product and skills. I love it. Can't wait to hear more about it. Thank you for joining us, Ahndraea. Okay, amazing. So let's just kick off with the first section of this conversation. Just wanted to hear, and I know you've kind of touched into where you're from, but would love to hear from each of you, how did you come to choose Dubai as your current base? Tracy, maybe we get started with you.
So the opportunity was honestly kind of unexpected. I always had Dubai as kind of on my target, just not as early as last year. And when Namshi reached out with the whole fashion and marketing plan, it just made so much sense with my personal ambitions and aspirations. So I thought, why not? And especially Dubai being such a huge marketing hub in the region, it made 100% sense to move.
Oh, absolutely. And I think it being a melting pot of cultures too, it's a very attractive place to obviously build connections. It's a land of opportunity, they call it, right?
Absolutely.
Ahndraea, what was your kind of drive?
Mine was a little different. 2019, I actually was on a girls' trip and I came to Dubai and kind of fell in love with it, the architecture, the different culture. And I got lucky, kind of. COVID not lucky, but COVID happened. And it was definitely a time to kind of reflect on what I wanted to do. I know I always wanted to live and work outside of the US, and Dubai came to mind, and a role happened to open. And here I am 2 years later.
Meant for you. Well, for me, I actually grew up here. I moved here when I was very young, so I've seen Dubai literally come from a desert, a two-way lane on Sheikh Zayed Road, to the skyscraper haven that it is today.
Nice.
So I've really seen that evolution of the city and of the country as well, which is obviously very exciting. Okay, great. Would love to hear from the both of you a little bit about your personal and professional goals, and how did those both of them relate to you moving to Dubai? Tracy?
I'm going to be honest, one of my more personal goals was just to put myself out there a bit more and go out more and experience things. And Dubai really is the place for that in terms of meeting people, things to do. I mean, there are a million activities you can think of and super cool cafes that just seem to pop out every single day. So from a personal side, it really made sense for me to move to Dubai and explore that side of myself a bit more. And professional wise, in terms of career opportunities and the networking and meeting people, I think it's unmatched compared to other markets in the region as well. You get the melting pot of people that you mentioned, but also in terms of different career paths and walks of life, you have a huge mix of people.
And it's that beauty of like different mindsets and stories and perspective, right?
Yeah, 100%.
It's a beautiful place to just pick up on those things, especially if you're someone who's really open-minded. You get to learn so much. Ahndraea, what are your goals and how was it linked?
Yeah, so mine, me moving here, I just saw this opportunity to definitely be around different cultures. I think in the US, everyone thinks the US is great, which it is. And some people don't have the guts to actually leave. So it was, for me, I was like, the only way to really truly gain experience is not just reading books, right, and watching movies, but to actually get out there and do it. So that was really important to me. And then professionally, I thought this was a great way to expand my career, and really truly network and get wherever I'm trying to go next.
Oh, beautiful. I think like the courage that you need and just that risk, that step, it just takes one step to make a decision and just leave your comfort zone, come into an unfamiliar territory. I mean, kudos to you ladies, because that is bravery at its finest. And clearly it's worked out well. So yes.
It has. It's been amazing.
Oh, wonderful. Let's talk a little bit about, and I know we've spoken a little bit about what kind of cultures there are here, different mindset, perspectives, but the pace. I mean, Dubai works at like a warp speed sometimes, right? It's so fast. What can you like talk a little bit about the difference between where you came from before moving to Dubai and how different the pace is to where we are today? Maybe Tracy, you can shed some light on that.
Sure. So I'm originally from Lebanon, and more specifically the countryside of Lebanon. So shifting to Dubai, this huge booming city, I mean, you go from more of like a village style lifestyle to something that's super fast paced. So I find myself kind of coming home sometimes and then thinking, this just happened today. I didn't even have time to process it. So just in terms of the life outside of the office, but also indoors, everything happens so fast, especially with the industry that we're working in. It's kind of something new happening and something new popping up every single minute, honestly.
Oh my goodness, 100%. And you feel like you can't keep up sometimes, right?
Exactly.
Just like the roads, they just pop out of nowhere.
Exactly.
New roads. I'm just like, that wasn't there 2 nights ago.
Yeah.
Ahndraea, what are your thoughts on that?
I would say, so me coming from the US, like I said, I grew up in New York, which is a very fast-paced city. I went to school in Boston, which was another fast-paced city. And the last city I was in Florida, which was fast too, but not as fast as those two cities. But Dubai, I feel like I've adapted pretty well. Coming from a fast-paced area, but like for sure, I think the culture is what's has been different for me. The different languages, different nationalities has been really inspiring and something that's unique to where I'm coming from.
That's beautiful. And I think I would love to ask more questions about the culture piece in a bit, because I think that's a really important part of moving to this region, right? Particularly into the UAE. But maybe a question that will apply to so many of us. I mean, we all know that this city is expat heavy, right? And, it takes up a big part of that population. But I think what's super important for our listeners is almost how do we prepare for that move? Like, what did we have to consider and think about and really plan properly before making that move in terms of like finances, budgeting, like documents, even the weather. We just got a question about like how do we prepare for the summer heat? Like nobody prepares for that kind of heat, let's be honest. But like, what are some tips? Maybe Ahndraea, we can start with you. What are some tips that you did to be able to prepare yourself for a seamless move into the city?
Absolutely. So I definitely did some research. Google is my best friend. So I would say do research is really important. We have all these digital platforms that can help us, and you're able to speak to people who are actually in the country as well. So I think that's really important. I was lucky enough with my company, they actually connected me with a good support system when it came to like financial, getting set up with the bank, finding housing. So ask questions. I would say that's really important too. So if you are planning to move with a company, ask, do they have a support system to help you get set?
Super important. Tracy, anything you want to add to that?
Honestly, I was fortunate enough to have a very big group of friends already based in Dubai. So they were my go-to like resource in terms of all questions. But as Ahndraea mentioned, Google really is a super helpful tool. Even I found that the micro influencers, whether it's on Instagram, TikTok, they tend to share some insights that you might miss when it comes to day-to-day living in Dubai. So like the do's and don'ts, places to go to, places to, consider. So that's been super helpful.
It's so interesting because in yesterday's session, we were talking about networking and building a community and kind of being aware and staying up to date as to what's going on. I think that's so relevant to the prep into the move, right? Networking is truly key in so many parts of life. And you're right, like finding a community where you can kind of be comfortable in, ask those not so common questions, and really understanding the nuances of the city is critical. And I think like we were mentioning earlier, because there's so many cultures here, you absolutely will find a community that you can fit in, it be from a passion perspective or even from a origin, right? So love that. Thank you so much for sharing. Would love to deep dive into the cultural piece now, but before we get into that, a question that has come through from Meda, very interesting question. She asks, what are the pros and cons of living in the UAE? Ahndraea?
The pros. The pros of living in the UAE, again, I have to talk about culture again. I'm getting to be around so many different types of culture is something that I think is amazing. You don't really get that a lot. Cons, I would probably say the weather can be really tough, but learning how to gauge through it, knowing when the certain time that is. So maybe planning like when your leave is during these times. So I would say for sure, that's what I think of when I think of a con.
I mean, in terms of weather, my skin is thick. I grew up here, so my skin just adapted to the summer heat. It's like, it can bear it. But you're right. A lot of the expats, we do see them travel out of the country when it gets really hot. Although we do have a lot of establishments that are closed and like there's AC, like we're able to stay, but it can get pretty brutal, right? So I think you're right. Pre-planning is super important. Tracy, what are your thoughts on pros and cons?
So in terms of cons, I'm going to have to match your answer, Ahndraea, and say that the weather is something else here. But in terms of pros, I have to say that it's super, super practical living here. I mean, when it comes to delivery or just efficiency, absolutely unmatched.
We're so lucky. You can literally get anything. Like Noon Minutes itself, I have to say,
there you
15
go.
minutes delivery in your house, in your office. Love that. Amazing. Okay, let's tap into cultural adaptation, because we did kind of go into that a little bit, but going into more detail and deep diving into that, what are some tips and insights that we can share with everyone around understanding the nuances of the cultural differences here, knowing that there are so many different cultures, but ultimately we are in the Middle East, right? So that awareness piece, how did we manage that cultural shift? Tracy?
So I think one of the points that you guys mentioned earlier in the session is that it is a super expat dominant market. But with that being said, you do have the local community. And I think reading about it a bit, and just once you're also in the country itself, you do kind of understand what works, what doesn't work as well. These little cultural nuances, what's celebrated, what's, a bit more, let's say, common, uncommon. So I think it's also kind of learning on the go. And I think the community is super receptive to expats as well, and kind of understanding of any, new people coming in. So it's been a super smooth process.
Yeah, totally agree. Ahndraea?
I'd have to agree with Tracy. Definitely another thing I'd probably add to that is just, again, I said the digital platforms, using that to do your research. Don't assume, ask questions. I think that's really important too. Because a lot of people, they might think your perspective might be a certain way, and it can be completely different. So I think being observant is really important to make sure that, and being able to adapt to the different changes and the different types of people.
Oh, 100%. And just being respectful of the change,
Yeah,
right? Like being
Totally.
open-minded as to what you may not were used to or you weren't aware of. Because yeah, you just have to kind of be resilient, especially in the early months of your move. I feel like that's quite critical. Um, and then talking about like community and building your own kind of, group of where you're comfortable and you can connect with. Tracy, I know that you're from Lebanon. However, you've lived in different countries, but as a Lebanese, how was it for you integrating into, the nuances of Lebanese, the Lebanese community here?
So we have a pretty big Lebanese diaspora in all of the UAE, and specifically in Dubai. So to me, it felt a bit more of like a home away from home, a second home. Even in terms of cultural values, there's a lot of overlap, and it's very easy to just integrate within the community because it's people who've kind of followed the same path and have those tips and tricks to share as well. So it's been a pretty seamless adventure, I'd say.
Yeah. And Ahndraea, for you, like, I know that you're from New Jersey, but you spent a lot of time in New York, and where that city can also have such a big hub of different cultures. How did you find yourself finding a community here? Like what were your secret tips on that?
So again, using the digital platforms,
Hmm.
definitely Facebook, Instagram was a big one too. Looking at different groups that I could join. Running is a really big part of my life, so I found a track and field group that I was able to connect with, and because of that, they introduced me to another group called DXB Community, which was other people from America, African American women, people from different islands, and it was a sense of community. So I didn't feel so far away from home.
Oh, that's beautiful. And I think also you get to then spend time with them on the weekends, when you want to kind of switch off, you have that community after work. That's really comforting, I think, where you don't really feel the homesick feeling, right?
Absolutely.
Oh, I love that. And then just kind of wrapping up the cultural pieces really on networking. I think we can really stress how important that is, being open to network and go out there and put yourself out there and be comfortable with making connections with anyone for that matter, but primarily those who have similar interests to you, right? I think that's what kind of ties everything in. We've got a question that came through that's a bit more generic, but I think it's a really lovely question to ask is what motivates you as a woman? We've been talking about our personal passions on the side. So this question is from Miriam. Ahndraea, what motivates you as a woman?
Um, what motivates me is being the best at whatever I put my mind too, if that makes sense. I try to think, how can I might not, okay, when I say being the best, I might not be the best, but if I put 100% in, I feel good about that. So I think it's really important to me knowing that to put 100% in whatever that I'm doing. So that's important. That's what motivates me for sure. Put my
Does
best
that
foot forward.
does that come from your competitiveness of
Oh my God, yes,
being
it
an
does.
athlete?
Oh, yes, it does. It's like it definitely being an athlete, you're always like, how can I be better? What can I do? Like you're always thinking of the next to get you where you want to go. So I think that definitely comes from that. It's instilled in me.
Love it. Tracy, what motivates you? What's your passion?
I'd say challenging the notion or the idea that we're supposed to fit in one specific category or do one specific thing, whether it's from a professional front or a personal standpoint. Being able to kind of fit into multiple categories at the same time, do multiple things, and kind of break all of those preconceived notions that people might have about women and what they're meant to do is definitely what keeps me pushing and kind of always trying to do my best, as Ahndraea was mentioning.
So relevant to International Women's Day, right?
Absolutely.
Oh, us. We got a question that has just come through from Tanya. It's a bit specific to HR, so I'm just going to call out on it. What tips would you give to someone looking for a job abroad? Is networking and LinkedIn your best bet? I mean, connections is key. Your connections are your superpower. That's kind of what I wanted to, that's how I would answer the question. Dubai, in particular, the UAE literally thrives on connections. You get opportunities very likely because you are connected to someone in that place or in that company. And that is something that we also touched with in the session yesterday, is maintaining those relationships, nurturing them, and just being when you're doing something, do it with humility and make sure your work ethics are in place, because you don't know who you're going to end up working with in your next job or what favor you're going to be asking the next person. So absolutely, networking is something that you should spend a lot of your time in, irrespective of where you are in your career. Obviously, the more you stay in your career, the more connections you build, but then it's about building them and keeping them, which is always going to be the challenging piece. And just putting yourself out there, ask questions, go into communities that are maybe different to you, speak to your relatives, your friends, your family about who they know, because it is literally your superpower. LinkedIn is an amazing platform. I call it my Facebook. Because I just see everything there. People are so connected on LinkedIn, and you get to really understand who, what, when, how. It's just such a beautiful platform of insights. So a tip I can give to anyone at any point of their career is just stay connected, build your network, strengthen your network, and nurture it as well. And then we've got a question from Marianne around what is one piece of advice for someone looking to move and work in Dubai? Perhaps something that we already mentioned or something you ladies want to add. Tracy, want to go?
I think something that we mentioned definitely is just really doing your research. First of all, when it comes to Dubai as a place to live in, but also when it comes to professional speaking. So is it in line, and the opportunities here, are they exactly in line with what you're looking for? Any companies that you have top of mind that you can already start applying to ahead of time? I think the more planned you are, the better off your chances are, honestly. Yeah.
I think, Ahndraea, you'd agree with that, right?
Right, Tracy hit it right on. Yes, right on the nail on the head. Perfect. I agree with you.
You gave the golden advice,
Yes.
Tracy. Well done.
Awesome.
Amazing. Let's just kind of move away from the culture and talk a little bit about specific to your roles and the functions that you're in. So Tracy, you coming from like the marketing side of things, would love to hear a little bit about what you think, or share some insights and tips on advice for anyone who wants to succeed in that particular field in Dubai, in the UAE in particular.
So something that might be a bit more generic first is just there are so many resources online when it comes to courses, certificates that you can take that kind of tackle the whole marketing job and marketing scope. So that's definitely the one place to start. And then I would say specifically in the UAE and Dubai, because it is such a huge hub when it comes to marketing, even the big tech companies, Google, Meta, they're all based here as well. So these face-to-face meetings that you might have, or even like passing by their offices, it all happens here in Dubai. So definitely look into the companies or agencies that cater and focus on advertising, on marketing services. That's your best bet to kind of grow here.
Amazing. Ahndraea, from a training perspective, what is it like for you?
I would say that definitely connecting with other people in that area for training. In the sense of maybe getting out of your comfort zone, maybe speaking to someone that you might not have spoken to before, getting their perspective of how it is where they're working, or what you might need to work on. Getting advice is really important. I think also get a mentor as well if this is something that you want to do. Find someone that you look up to and that could help support you and give you the advice and the direction you need to go to get where you want to go.
Oh, 100%. And I feel like because this landscape is so competitive, the region, there's so many different types of talent with so many different types of experiences, you will definitely bump into someone that can give you that advice and give you that secret recipe, right? And it's a good and it's a great thing to have, because yes, you'll be able to be exposed to that side of things, but also it is very competitive to be able to get into what you want to do. Do you ladies feel like there are so many career opportunities, but it's really about finding the right one for you that works for you, is an important part of the puzzle, right? Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think a lot of people are a bit worried, for example, what if I start off here and it's not what I meant to do? You won't know until you try. That's kind of the motto I live by. You won't know until you try.
Yeah, 100%. We've just got a question or a comment rather that has come through from Samiksha. And the question is, when you come in, you don't actually have connections. What's the best way to approach the fashion and retail industry here? Ahndraea, what do you think?
Network. Networking. I think that's when communication, putting yourself out there to communicate with others, because like you said, there could be someone else that might know someone that can help you get where you want to be. So I think stepping out of your comfort zone, speak to as many people as you can, and I think that's the direction I would say to go in for sure.
Because surely you'll find a common denominator, right?
You will. And I think like I said, I'm part of these different communities now. So me even putting something in, and we have a WhatsApp group. I think there's like 500 members in this group. And if I can put, I'm looking for this, and somebody might know somebody. So you just never know. But you're not gonna find this out if you don't put yourself out there. So I think community is really, really, really important.
And that's what Tracy was saying as well about the Lebanese community, right? That so many of them have similar stories, so many similar experiences, that they kind of already gone through what you've gone through.
Absolutely.
Yeah. A question has come through. I think this is more for you, Ahndraea. As you are an athlete and a trainer in Adidas, how do you balance work and sports?
Finding the right time to make sure that you do what you love is important. So for me, waking up really early in the morning, I usually head to the track around 6 a.m. in the morning, which is a little nuts. The sun's not even out half the time. But it gives me the energy I need to get me through the rest of the day. So I think work-life balance is really important. Not giving up the things that you love, because that'll help you in your day-to-day life for sure. And then it helps you at work too. If you're happy outside of work, you'll also be happy with work as well.
Oh, 100%. We actually also talked about this yesterday, because you need to kind of fill your cup as well, right? To bring out the best of yourself at work. But it starts from how you treat your personal life and how you manage to enjoy that side. Tracy, what about you? How do you balance your work and kind of life here in Dubai?
I think it's a little bit easier just because I have this clear distinction between what I do at work versus what I do kind of in my free time. So I work out in my free time. Ahndraea does. I know there's a bit of an overlap there. So because I have this kind of distinction, it helps me draw the line, understand, okay, so these tasks, these things that I do, work related versus, let's say, fitness, reading books, watching movies, purely hobby related.
Are we also part of the 5 a.m. club, Tracy? Because I feel like Ahndraea is.
I actually am. I do. I do. I work out at 6 a.m. every day.
Beautiful. We're all on the same page here. But isn't it wonderful how that energizes you, even if it's so early? Your day, you just got this burst of energy.
You feel so much better.
Exactly.
You
It
feel
sets
better.
the tone. Absolutely.
I mean, don't get me wrong. The reality is by 3 p.m. we're like ready for bed.
Yeah.
But I think that morning you start your day fresh. You do something for yourself. You set the tone of the day. I think that's really what the win is every day. I love that. Another question that came in that I think we've already tapped into slightly, but if there's anything else you want to add on to that, that would be great. From Sam, any tips you can give someone who is considering a move to Dubai? Ahndraea?
I can repeat what I've said. Because it worked for me. It did. I research. Use the platforms that we have. Use Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. You could just put the word in, and I'm sure someone will tell you your whole life how their experience has been. So I think if you use that, if you don't feel comfortable reaching out to someone, you can read up on somebody that's done a blog or their experience. So I think that will make it easier for you.
The power of social media, right?
Yes.
You can literally feel like you're already there. You've already moved to Dubai with how much exposure and knowledge there is. Tracy, anything you want to add to that?
I'd say just a small thing I'd add is just understanding, are you moving on your own? Are you moving with someone, to kind of get a better grasp in terms of expenses, living situations, how that would look like for your case specifically.
Oh yes, cost of living in Dubai is very different to other parts of the world. 100%. We didn't actually touch too much on that, but I think that's a really important part, is just prepare. Like, try to almost have like the worst case scenario prepared for you, and the funds for that. But again, you get all this insights from the website or like online or like your social platforms, because it is indeed a more expensive place to live in, right? So being realistic with what you can afford, and kind of how, depending on your lifestyle, I think that's super important. Love it. A quite generic question has just come through from Mimi, is how can you get used to having a better and healthier lifestyle in Dubai? Tracy, any thoughts?
I'd say don't set super unrealistic or super difficult goals. I think take it step by step. Start with, for example, 30 minutes of workout on a specific day, and then kind of build your plan from there. I know that Ahndraea might be the key person for this, like all health related questions, but for me personally, I'd say start with like stepping stones. Thanks.
Ahndraea, do you want to add?
I agree with her. I think finding what your niche is, like not everybody's a runner, right? So running might not be your thing. There's so many different types of sports. Like I picked up paddle, like that's another way of being active. Swimming, HIIT classes. There's so many different types of ways to stay in shape. So finding what best works for you is important. And then healthy eating, again, using the platforms to figure out what works for you and your body type, making sure you're speaking to a doctor, like you're not just doing what the trend is. Finding out if that works for your body is really important as well too.
And to add on to that, like we were talking about ease of access to things, right? Like there are, like you were saying, Andre, there are so many options of how you can get moving. And Dubai being a rather smaller country, you can get to anywhere so quickly. So if you want to go down to the beach, you can do that quickly. If you want to go down to the city. And I think that also helps almost motivate and inspire us to get moving. It's because it's not so difficult to do these things. And there are so many options available to everybody. So I think, yeah, what you're saying is like, I totally agree with you. It's super accurate and very relevant too. Another question that has just come through from Jareen, an interesting one actually. As expats, when you retire, you'd probably have to go back to your home country. What are our thoughts on that? Ahndraea, you'd have to go back to the US.
That's it. You know what? Honestly, I don't know if I would go back to the US. I might go somewhere else. Maybe Europe. The US is not I'm absolutely going to go back there. So I think keeping your options open is important. I don't set unrealistic expectations I might have to go home, but when you retire, I think also, which is really important, I don't know if we really talk about making sure that you save. I think that's a big thing too. That's important, so you can figure out after, when you do leave Dubai, where do you want to go? Do you want to go back home, or are you investing somewhere else where you might want to go after that? So I think that's important.
And Tracy, would you go back to Bangkok, or would you want to explore?
I'm coming with you, Tracy.
Let's go.
Me too.
If we're sticking to the whole question with the retired part, I actually see this as a positive. So I think it's really cool that we get to experience like big chunks and chapters of our lives in different countries. So I'm fine with doing the whole working situation here. And then let's say once I retire, go back to Lebanon specifically. I actually see it as a positive.
And I think on the piece of, if not your hometown, somewhere else, it's so easy to meet someone here who can already give you that insight of
exactly
what it's like to move there, right?
Yeah,
absolutely.
Give you all that knowledge and nuances. Amazing. Thank you so much for your answers. I think how I would like to kind of wrap up is almost ask each of you almost about like one tip or trick based on your personal professional experience working abroad as an expat. What would you like to leave the audience going away with? Maybe we can start with you, Tracy. One thing
I'd say, don't worry just because you'll find your sense of belonging in your community kind of anywhere, especially in Dubai. It's so much easier, like we touched on, it's so much easier to kind of find that community and diaspora because so many people are in the same shoes and the same position of kind of leaving home to discover new opportunities. So don't be afraid of kind of making that big change because there's so many other people right there with you.
Love that. Ahndraea?
And I want to say, I absolutely agree with you, especially that part about there's so many different people from who are not home. Everybody's kind of trying to figure out things on themselves. Not everybody has it together or know exactly where they're going to end up. So I think that's something that connects us all for sure. And I would say putting yourself out there is really important. Don't wait for things to happen. Make them happen. Put yourself in places and opportunities to meet the right people is important.
What's the saying? There's never really a right time. Just do it anyway. Like just make it the right time. Right?
Or YOLO. You only live once.
Move to Dubai. Love it. Love it. Okay. Well, thank you so much, ladies. This was super insightful. Hopefully this has left some really good tips and some insights to your journey, and then hopefully that's helpful for those listening to the session. I guess that's kind of all the questions I had, and I think it's super inspiring to hear each of our stories. I think every single person in this city has a different story, and we can all learn a thing or two from them. So it almost feels a bit comforting that you're not alone. I think that's what's important.
You got this.
Exactly. But before we close the session, a very important part, as we can see the stripes here, I have to slip this in. I've heard that you both have your looks and your edits and some outfits. So I'd love to have a look at them. Maybe Tracy, we start with you. Talk us a little bit about what you chose and how you'd style them.
So I kind of, honestly, it was super similar to my day-to-day outfits in terms of also athleisure. That's kind of, especially as being someone who wakes up early and works out, that's kind of what I want to stay in for the rest of the day. And you can just kind of accessorize it, you know, spice things up a little bit. So I love anything that's sweatpants or like cargo pants as well. Pants that flare out. Sneakers are definitely a must. Honestly, any occasion, even under a nice fancy dress, you'll find me with sneakers. And a good hoodie is always the way to go.
Comfort over anything. Love that. And Ahndraea, what were your choices? Talk to us a little bit about those.
Definitely, I would say when I was choosing sub looks, I see one of the looks that I have on right now. Pieces are really important to me. I'm being able, not always having everything matchy, but having a signature piece that you can put together, like for sure, is important. A cute dress is good. Being able to dress things up and dress things down too. One thing I like the breaker pants. I would wear those with heels too. So like, there's so many different ways you can style things, for sure.
It's just so versatile, right? Like you can just mix and match.
Mix and match.
Love it. Love it. And we see that a lot. Like we come to the office, you know, and we style things up here in the Namshi offices. So I think, yes, like your options look amazing. Like that yellow coat, I think it is, looks stunning. I love the pants. Like I would get those right now. Love it. Well, thank you very much. So have a look, everyone, at the looks that are on for each of our beautiful ladies, their edits that they've chosen. They really are, you know, their own personality. So surely you'll find something that suits you. And hopefully you'll be able to enjoy them as we do as well. So that's all from us, ladies. Thank you so much for sharing your insights. Hopefully you've had a good time. We really enjoyed having you here. Thank you for joining. Thank you everyone for tuning in, and wish you all a good day.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
My name is Sadia.
I'm Ahndraea
Ahndraea Allen.
Rachel.
Please, I'm Tracy.
The life advice I would give my younger self is
Don't try to please everyone, and it's okay to say no if you don't like it.
Just because we live in such a fast-paced environment and world nowadays, it's difficult to kind of appreciate every single step.
What's meant to happen will happen, so you should just go with it a little bit more.
The people that inspire me the most are my parents.
I think the easy answer to that is my mother and my mom, just because she's such a strong boss woman.
All the mothers inspire me.
Mostly due to their support, their strength, and their resilience.
I think the thing that makes me feel most empowered is being able to speak up. And what that means to me is saying what's on your mind.
I think when I have rested well currently, if I have a good night's sleep, I spend time with my daughter, I feel I can do anything.
I think remembering the power that we hold is really what unleashes that empowerment that we bring to ourselves. So definitely that's when I feel most empowered, when I remember, like, I got it.